Now, you could say that my first guest today is an ordinary woman who's doing extraordinary things because she's connected with the people. Wherever there is a battle to be fought for justice and equal rights on behalf of the people, there you'll find the activist and campaigner Aisha Yusuf. And so, naturally, she was there as a prominent member of the End SARS protest movement from when it first began in 2017 through to when it mushroomed into a mighty cloud in 2020. You can't have missed that iconic defiant symbol of the movement, a photograph of Aisha with a clenched fist. And now she's at the forefront of transforming that fervent political energy into a force to be reckoned with in 2023, bringing as many people as possible into the political equation, working with the likes of the president and founder of the ANAP Foundation, Tedo Peterside, and Bishop Matthew Kuka, and many others, to help register as many young people as possible to vote, tapping into their enormous demographic strength and giving them a potential voice in determining the political affairs of the nation, most notably who will lead Nigeria after President Buhari leaves office in 2023. And I'm suitably delighted to say that the activist and campaigner Aisha Yusuf joins me now in the studio. Thank you so much for coming in. I understand you're a little bit under the weather, but we appreciate that you made it here. And of course, you've been an activist and campaigner for many years. You've become a well-known voice of on the sort of protest circuit, repudiating governments, denouncing corruption, inequality, etc., furiously demanding change. But would you agree that that protest energy has shown very little practical results? In other words, so many demonstrations, but so little accomplished by them?
I wouldn't agree with that. First of all, thank you for having me, and thank you for those kind words. So most times people look at it and think that protest, there's no success to it, but there's a whole lot. There are many things that are achieved. For example, the Bring Back Our Girls movement, we have 106 of the girls that are back, and so, you know, a lot have been done. With the End SARS protests also, there are a lot of things that have been put together, the panels that were set up, people got to talk about their story, some people have found justice, some people have been compensated by the government, and the most important thing is that the people have been emancipated, the minds of the people. A lot of people, you know, they looked at End SARS protests and they feel like, oh, it wasn't a success. What they didn't realize was that the Nigerian youth were getting their minds back. You know, it's Stephen Biko that said that the greatest weapon of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. So the moment you have a hold over the minds of the oppressed, then you can do anything to them, and they would even justify what you're doing to them. But right now we see the Nigerian youth, you see how eager they are to participate in the political process. And so the protest over the years, the movements going around, the red card movement we did in 2018, a lot of people felt we were wasting our time when we're going around the country with Dr. Obieze, Kwesile Florence, Ozomorin Kabrik, and all of that. But today we see what's happening. A lot of people have realized that indeed the power belongs to the people, and the people can make a difference, and that's where we are today.
That's very interesting, because I was going to say that clearly in 2022, heading into 2023, you've all wisened up. Now you're transforming all that restless energy of protest from Nigeria's youths into something that could affect the ballot box, which is clearly a much better organized initiative and a more meaningful way to try and effect change and political reform. Are you seeing greater interest from the youth in participating in that 2020 political process?
Yeah, so before I answer that question, let me come back to say that it's not that we're seeing a more meaningful way. Protests, there will always be protests. Whoever becomes the president by 2023, May 29, 2023, better do the right thing, or definitely we're going to be on the streets. I mean, protest happens when government don't listen.
People but what I meant...
No, I understand what you meant. I'm going to come down there.
Sure.
So the thing is that with protest is it happens when the government don't listen. And so the first thing the government is supposed to do is listen to the people and, you know, look at what they do. It's the last So when they don't listen, people get on the streets, and the agenda is now set. You know, in public policy making, agenda setting is the first thing. So protest is a way of setting that agenda, and then as you go on. So it's not as if people don't know. Right now, what we have, when you see there is not much of a protest, is that I think it's who was it that said insanity? It's when you're doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And so it would be insanity for anyone today. We've seen a government that it's uncaring. It doesn't bother what is happening to the people. The government that we have today, and this is me, Aisha Yusuf, saying it's incompetent. It has failed. So why do you channel your energy to a government that has failed, obviously? And then even if you're making demands, they don't listen, and they have a good number of people who, when the minds that are still sort of like a mental abduction, who will defend the government that haven't been doing anything. So right now it's all about political activism. This is also activism. So what is happening, people? In political activism, there are four things. You're either running for office because you have the capacity to run for office, you're campaigning for those who are running for office, you're helping them to raise funds, or you're making demands on them, you're scrutinizing them before and after they get in. So it's not that, oh, protest is something that is done away with. At this moment, it's better to focus all the energy in ensuring that Nigeria gets the next, you know, the next government should come with people who are competent, people who have capacity, people who are passionate about the country, people who have empathy, people who are going to do the right thing. So that's why that energy is being channeled that way now.
Well, in that respect, I mean, you've always, as you are now, emphasized the need for true leadership in Nigeria and for the emergence of a sort of servant leader. Have you seen that kind of figure yet as 2023 approaches? So, in terms of not just servant leadership, but also transformational leadership, at the presidential level, I have seen that in the person of Mr. Peter Obi. At the other level, I'm still looking at, because for me personally, and one of the things we've been saying to people, it's not about parties, it's about candidates. We've seen that a good number of the parties, because of the incentive, there's no incentive for them to give the competent candidates in their party. So they always give us the ones that they can control, and which hasn't been good for us. So we as citizens, we are saying to ourselves, right now what we're going to do is to ensure that we are voting, we are checking, scrutinizing each of the candidates, and then you have who are the candidates that will send it in there. So in terms of that transformational leadership at the presidential level, I have seen one, but it comes with something, which is to say that citizens, we must be vigilant. Vigilance that's a price you pay for democracy, right? So we must be vigilant. We must ensure that whoever is going there knows that they got in there because of us, the people, and they will listen to the people. It will be government for the people, not government for certain Nigerians. At the end of the day, we always say that no Nigerian is more Nigerian than any Nigerian. And it is time for whoever is coming in to know that they're going to serve the people. And if they're not ready to serve the people, they should stay out of the way. So we must not forget the demand side of governance, which is usually what people forget. They focus on the supply side. So we who vote them in must continue to make demands, and they who we vote in, we continue to give our supply good governance to us. Well, that's, I think, something that would be absolutely essential given the history of this country. And in that respect, a third political force in Nigeria would break the stranglehold of the two dominant parties, the APC and the PDP. How much has the internet and social media played a role in mobilizing this new force? I mean, how significant has it been? Because, I mean, it was the internet, wasn't it, that helped to mobilize the countless numbers that took part in the EndSARS protests? Oh,
the internet has done a lot, especially social media. So what social media did is that it democratized media. In those days, especially when I was a young girl, all we did was you waited 7 a.m., the government will tell you what they want to tell you. And at 9 p.m. also, they tell you what they want to tell you. And that's it. You can't even respond. But right now, it's not just the government. Government are forced. Citizens have opportunity to be able to talk about the issues and put out their own agenda and speak on issues, whether policy issues and all of that. And so social media has helped a lot. People, the Nigerian youth, let me just call the Nigerian youth, they're intelligent, they are creative, they have social media, they have technology at their disposal, and they're using it. And so you can mobilize people, not just only in Nigeria, but around the world using the social media. You can communicate. You don't have to travel. In those days, before you have a meeting, you have to travel from one end to the other. But right now, you can just be in different parts of the country, different parts of the world, and you're meeting and you're organizing. And so that's a huge thing. One of the things, you know, the biggest lie that was sold to Nigeria was that votes don't count. And we always say that if votes don't count, why do politicians buy votes? So definitely, what a lot of people have realized now that indeed votes count. And then the next question is about structure. Who are the structures? The people are the structures. And so when you have something like 5 for 5 votes, I talk to 5 people, and those 5 people talk to other 5 people about a candidate. That's you. That's the 5 for 5 votes going on and it being sold. So that's something that is happening. And so people are taking ownership of the structure, and you see them all over the country doing different things. Then the other thing is the funding. Most times what we've done...
I was just going to mention, because I saw that on your Twitter page.
Absolutely. Yeah. What we have today in Nigeria, you know, in Nigeria is where things are done upside down. In certain countries, candidates are not the ones who fund their campaign. It's the people who do that with their little money, 1,000 here, 100 naira there. You know, you just put it together. But what we've allowed in our country is that candidates are the ones who fund their campaign. So we have people who have stolen our collective wealth, are the ones who are perpetuating themselves in office or perpetuating their stooges who go in there and they only do their bidding. So right now, what we are saying to citizens is that you must put your monies where your votes are. You must bring out that 1 naira, that 100 naira, that 1,000, 10,000, whatever it is that you have, and let's pull it together for our candidates so that they are able to also match. Because most times the politicians that we have, when they're telling you about structure, it's all about money. And so we want people who are incorruptible, people who have served and have not stolen wealth, people who have served diligently to be able to come and run for office, and not for them to be mocked. You know, before you used to hear things like, oh, you think politics is about grammar, you don't have certain money and all of that. But that's changing now, because citizens are ready to actually fund the campaign of their candidates. And going to 2023 election, Nigeria better get ready, because 2023 election is election for survival. We are fighting for our lives. We want a nation where we can breathe. Today, life in Nigeria is nasty, short, and brutish. I mean, everybody is a victim waiting to happen. You're not even sure. Even when you're in your house, you don't know whether you're going to get to the next money or somebody is coming to carry you from your house. And so this is not a time of shying away or thinking politics is not for anyone. Politics is for everyone, because at the end of the day, it's through the political process that the leaders are brought in, and we must be invested in it.
And I noticed that people are clicking away as you're talking now, which is part of what you were saying, the interactability of the internet, and whilst you're talking, people are responding and so on. And some have argued, use an example of Wole Olaoye, who wrote an excellent article in the Leadership newspaper about this. He's one of many who've argued that we would not have been discussing the presidential candidate Peter Obi at all if it wasn't for the End SARS protests mobilizing millions of youths on various social media platforms on the internet to great effect. Because, I mean, let's face it, the Labour Party isn't a hugely well-known party in Nigeria. Do you agree with that analysis?
Yeah, absolutely, I do. But the thing is that this is not about Labour Party. So, like you remember earlier on, I said we are voting candidates. It's about
personalities.
Yes,
about
candidates rather than parties, because we've waited for parties for so long to give us competent candidates, and they've not done that. So we're going around to, at every level, who is the most competent person. And so for us at the presidential level, Peter Obi is the most competent candidate, and so that's what it is about. But of course, he's right in the fact that what NSAS did was that it woke up the Nigerian youth. So for some of us who are of the older generation, we knew what military rule was all about. So we don't take the democracy we have for granted. My son was born, my first child was born in 1999. And so he doesn't know anything about military rule. So he takes the democracy for granted. A lot of them do take the democracy for granted. And so they didn't get the heinousness of the government and how the Nigerian government can be so brutal. So with the NSAS protest, that woke them up, and they're like, like, okay, so this is what is happening. And so now they're invested, not before where they felt, oh, they couldn't be bothered about politics. Now they've realized, a lot of Nigerians have realized the importance of politics and governance in our lives. But most importantly, the legislative arm of government is the bedrock of democracy. And we must not we must never look away from that. We must focus on it, and that's the reason why we need to check all the candidates who are the most competent ones and send, so that we are not sending a rubber stamp assembly. We're not getting another rubber stamp assembly. For people who are interested in restructuring, for people who are interested in, is it state policing, who want a new constitution.
So it's an issue-driven thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The easiest way to get that is through the legislative arm of government. If we're putting in competent people in the legislative arm of government, they can give us a new constitution. They can give us all of this, even if the president is not interested in that. The legislative arm of government is more powerful than the executive arm of government. They make laws, they have oversight functions, and they can hold the executive accountable. So if we're able to put competent people who care about Nigeria, who put Nigeria first and not their allowances first, who know that they got in there because of the Nigerian people, so their loyalty will be to the Nigerian people and not to the people who funded their campaigns. And so what will happen is that we'll get all of these things that we've been yearning for, whether it's a new constitution, restructuring, state policing, and the whole other things that we're looking for, we'll get it there. And even if the president, if they pass these laws and the president say that, oh, they're not going to give assent to that, they could just simply use their two-thirds majority and override the president and get us the laws that we need, the constitution that we need, all the things that we need for Nigeria to move forward, because we can't afford. The thing that people need to understand is that we're looking at 8 years, because whoever gets in there, it's much difficult to dislodge when an incumbent, right? So right now what we have is that there's no incumbent running. Yes, you must say an incumbent party. But one of the things that we've had is the fact that the president has been self-absorbed for a very long time. So it's like he doesn't care about what is happening in the country. And so that is something that we can use as people, because he might not put his way out. We saw him during the primaries of his party. He almost couldn't be bothered. He was just there chilling, you know, the way to say it in the Nigerian thing. He was just chilling and balling and looking at them. So hopefully going into the elections, he's going to be that way too. So that power where they might use people, I see a lot of people who are afraid that they might use government machinery. On
a positive level, he's not interventionist,
yes,
which is
so
great.
It's great. So that's something.
From the point of view of what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Right.
And sometimes, you know, they call it nuisance value. So everything that you want to do, you get a value out of it. So you use that. So that's something.
But of course, let's be clear, though, that Peter Obi may be a phenomenon right now, but he clearly hasn't won the election. And there are other major candidates, Atiku Abubakar of the PDP, Bola Tinubu of the APC, Rabiu Kwankwaso of the NPP, etc. I mean, these people are no pushovers, are they? I mean, they are real political bruisers who've been in the trenches for a long time.
Yes, they have been. So that's the beauty about it. So what we have in Nigeria today is that there's an awakening. So the suffering of the last 7 years have gotten a lot of people at the point where they realize that there's relationship between governance and their lives, and that it doesn't matter whether somebody is from your region or your religion, that you can actually get the effect of bad governance. I was born and brought up in the north. I'm from Edo State, and I grew up in the north. And I know, you know, normally when some people say that, oh, okay, are we going to vote a non-Muslim or things like that? It's reducing, because a good number of them, as we go to Katsina State, Katsina State is worse off, even though their own is a president and commander-in-chief, but yet they're really suffering. So that also, so what the establishment, let me call them the establishment, what they are not taking into consideration is the fact that people have suffered beyond any kind of suffering you can imagine, and so they are tired, and so they want something different. And then the Nigerian youth also are waking up to the realization that they have power in their hands. They can come together, they can unite. So nobody is a pushover. So this election is going to be interesting, and one of the things that politicians normally depend on is the fact that you know, election primaries are done, a few months, maybe 3-4 months, elections are done, and everything is on. It's not like that this time. There's a long time, and I must commend commend the President, Muhammadu Buhari, for signing the electoral bill. I mean, I did a video for him and I say he chopped knuckle. So, you know, he did amazing for us. A lot of people were skeptical, disillusioned, oh, he wouldn't sign it. But that was a beautiful thing that he did. So we have an electoral law that is preventing some of the shenanigans that used to happen in previous elections. So that's a whole lot coming in. You know, the last time the card reader wasn't a law, now there can be electronic transfer of results. There are a lot of things in the
so
electoral.
That gives you greater confidence.
Absolutely,
that
it
the
does.
Votes will count.
Absolutely, the votes will count to the last. And the thing is that we are voting as they. Remember what I said. This is fight for our lives. We're fighting for our lives with this election.
But of course, let's not be presumptuous and assume that all the youth who are registered to vote are going to cast their ballot for Peter Obi, because I mean the other candidates are also battling hard for a share of that vote.
Which is the way democracy is supposed to be, and it's a welcome development. It's everybody going all out to get that share of the vote, which is what we want. Not because what we've had all over previous elections since 1999 is that illiteracy has been weaponized. Poverty has also been weaponized. So they sell a lie to people that votes don't count. So these people stay out of the ballot of the electoral process, and then they get people who are not educated, who don't understand what governance, what politics is even all about, and people who are poor, and they're able to buy their votes. So this time now, they're saying that it will be impossible for them to do that because there are people who are invested, who know the value of their votes, and they're registering and they're coming out. And so it's a beautiful thing. It's the way we are. The beauty about this is that ordinarily they will always say that, oh, no, but it's structure, no third party can do anything out of the two parties. You know, if you're not from this party or that party, you can't win election. And so that's the reason why we are where we are today, because a lot of people who get into office, they do not care about the people because they feel that it's not the people that bring them in. So what normally happens on election days is that it's just merely endorsement. So their loyalty is to the people who give them the party tickets. So what we are doing now, and every Nigerian should be invested, is just 8 months. Put in everything within those 8 months. By the time we are able to get the candidates that know that they only got there because of the people, then they'll be more willing to work for the people. And if they don't work for the people will send them away.
We've got about a minute left in this fascinating chat, and there's still some, well, you said 8 months, I'd say about 6.5 months to go before the 2023 presidential election. Can the momentum that people like you have started, the youth and so on, be sustained for that long?
We've not even started. We've not started yet. We are still chilling. We've not even gotten to that place. So this is a lag phase. You're going to see the log phase, and then when we start moving, it can't be sustained. Because the thing that makes it easy to sustain is the suffering that we are going to. It's the insecurity that is happening to us. It's the fact that every Nigerian is a victim waiting to happen, and that, you know, it's like turn by turn Nigeria Limited. You don't know who is going to be the next victim. So this makes it important for everyone to be part of it, and people every day, they are getting more interested, more invested in it. It's just like, I'll quickly give you an example. During the NSAS protest, there's a young man called Adam Ismail. He called for protest in Kano on the 7th of October 2020. Only his friends showed up. So 2 of them did that protest. I knew he was so down, and I talked to him like, yo, just keep going. On the 19th of October 2020, he called for the same protest, and hundreds came out. I might say even thousands, but let me just put it at hundreds came out. Why did they see? Because they saw the momentum. And so Nigerians, as they see more and more people being invested in this election and going on, they will join, and at the end of the day, we'll get that country where the child of nobody can become somebody without knowing anybody. We are tired of the children of who is who have some famous names getting into position even when they are not supposed to be there. We want a situation whereby there is level playing ground for everybody. Let public education be accessible to everybody, because the greatest injustice we have in Nigeria today is that access to good quality education is dependent on the economic status of one's family, and that should be a crime.
Aisha, an absolute delight talking with you. I want to thank you very much indeed for coming in. Aisha Yusuf is the activist and campaigner and one of the co-founders of the Bring Back Our Girls campaign. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for having me.